Welcome back to the Making of Bird game, the game where you play as a baby phoenix that's trying to reach the sky. Last episode, I made some changes to the graphics. Not all of them were successful, but since then I have made a few changes that make it a little better. And we will get into that, but first I think I should explain what I mean by my game is changing genres. I know you're probably thinking, why? Well, my original plan for Bird game was to make a 2D action roguelike focused on movement with combat similar to that of Hollow Knight. And that's a lot of words, and I knew that starting out, so to help control the scope, I decided to split up the project and make a mini demo with just the movement and combat systems without all the roguelike stuff, just to get some feedback, hear some opinions, and then maybe reevaluate the scope. And that would also be a great stopping point if I wanted to take a break, do some game jams, learn a new engine, anything like that. The only problem is I didn't make a good plan for the smaller version of Bird game. I was just going to give you the bones the first level, but as it is right now, I don't think it'll work well without the features I've been planning, which at the time I thought was fine as long as I continued to add to it, but if I do take a break to do some other stuff, I'm worried the demo will just be forgettable and not fun, which it might still be, but I think I should at least put a little bit of time into making the demo actually work. So instead of giving you the bones of a bigger game, I decided to make a smaller game based around the mechanics I already have done. Or at least, kinda done. That's why for now, I'm changing Bird game from a roguelike into a speedrunning platformer. I asked my chat their thoughts, and after receiving some positive feedback, I decided to move forward with it, even though that means scrapping some of the other things I've been working on. I'll just put these in my back pocket for now. I'll talk about them later, I might reuse them, but for now I'll be putting them off to the side. In the meantime, I started making some test levels to incorporate the new scope. For the first level, I started just by blocking out the general size, then I added some of the butterflies and the platforms to make this. And then I did it like 9 more times. I made a door to progress to the next level, and I made some menus to navigate through them. And I'll be honest, I did rush through it a little bit. There's not really a tutorial either, so it might be a little bit difficult to pick up, but some of the levels are kind of fun. I don't know. I guess you'll be the ones to tell me. I will say though, one thing I noticed while playtesting these levels is that I don't love how the combat feels when the focus is on speed. So instead of making the combat determine your score like it would in like the Titanfall 2 Gauntlet for example, I made all the enemies optional. I did however give them a small speed and jump boost if you defeat them, so sometimes it's worth attacking, but it's often better to just avoid them. It's a little clunky and there's not really any feedback for the boosts, but I guess it'll do for now. And speaking of the enemies, I did improve the death animations for both the shrub and the chompy. I made the logic in the last episode, so all I needed to do was update the animations. Maybe they could use some particles, but at least now it's a lot more clear when an enemy is defeated. Next, I added an in-game timer to the canvas and I added an option to toggle it in the settings. If I'm making a speedrunning game, I think it makes sense to show the time as you're in the level, and then after you beat the level it can show you what your final time was and your previous high score. I also made an option so you can reset your high score in the settings. I needed to add this for development and I figured I would just throw it in the game in case you wanted to run from 0 again or something. I don't know. Anyways, the game is out now. There's a link to the current build in the description. You don't need to download anything, it plays in the browser and it works with the keyboard and mouse and also the controller. I put the controls in the description of the actual game. Like I said, there's not really a tutorial, so it might take you a second to pick up all the movement stuff, but it is there. I also suggest keeping your expectations a little bit low. This is just what I could get done before my self-imposed deadline, so it's not perfect by any means. Anyways, remember this boss that I made? The one that I showed at the beginning of the video? I figured I could talk a little bit about what the idea behind it was and why it ended up being omitted from the demo. Some of the early iterations were definitely questionable. With a bit of refinement, I think I came up with something pretty cool. I called it the Stompy, because it's a larger version of the Chompy. Now you may have noticed, wait what, this thing has legs? I'm thinking maybe it's a tadpole frog situation. I don't know, I guess it doesn't really matter. I haven't really added any lore yet, so it can be a little weird for now, that's fine. The idea behind this creature was that it drinks concentrated butterfly juice out of the container on its back, like one of those beer can hats, and then it juices him up and he gets real angry and he starts attacking you and stuff. I even made a few animations for him. There's a run/attack, a death animation, and one that I titled Chug because, well, he's chugging the drugs. I'll eventually find a place to use him, but unfortunately he just doesn't fit in the game right now. I also made a system where I can asynchronously load different parts of the level. I based it on this tutorial by Sasquatch Studios. Again, with the smaller scope it doesn't really make sense to have super large levels that need to be loaded in the background. So I just saved the scripts and maybe I can find a place to use them again. And here are some of the changes I made based on comments from the last video. First, and probably most obviously, I changed the particles. I got rid of that shader and I made the animations myself. The shader didn't change the resolution of the particles when they were scaled. It definitely looked bad when they were fading in and out especially. And by making them myself, I have more control over how it looks, for better or worse. But I think the charge and the tornado particles at least came out good. The other ones might need another pass, but it's still better than before. Next, I changed the speed of the walk animation to account for the added momentum. Before, there was only one animation speed, so as you got faster, the animation didn't line up anymore. And as with everything else, it could probably use some fine-tuning, but I think I'm okay with where it is right now. Although maybe it is a little bit too fast at the end there. I also got a few comments telling me I could round the player to the pixel grid when it wasn't moving to make it seem a little bit more pixel perfect, which I thought was a great idea. Unfortunately, on the player that caused some jittering because of how the colliders are set up, instead of messing around with that, I just used it for the enemies instead. I made it a function that I can call at different points in the animations. It's on my list to eventually make work for the player too, it's just a little bit weird with how my colliders are. Next, I saw some people say that the hit stop was a bit excessive, so I turned it down a bit. I think it's still clear when you get hit, but yeah, too much hit stop just feels bad, especially with the game's new focus on speed. And also, just a final little side note, I've kind of accepted that the background art is going to be a little sloppy. That's not really what I'm good at, and I decided that I'm just going to do the best I can with what I already have made. And finally, I just want to say thank you to everyone who joined the Discord, and especially the people who have been posting their own work as well as fan art. It's really cool to see what kind of stuff you guys can make, and I'm hoping to catch up soon. Anyways, this is a bird, join the Discord, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.